Namajapa basically helps in calming the mind. Namajapa helps in calming the mind. Because people say that Namajapa is meaningless, it's just a few words, it doesn't mean. Some people say instead of mantra you can say Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. It's all rubbish because that is not true. You see, I am saying a mantra precisely is there for chanting. And it should not really have a deep meaning, because if it has a meaning, then you will go on speculating about the meaning. What we require is to come out of speculation, come out of the thinking process. So it has to be a sound which has no associations. So it cannot be a meaningful word. It has to be a sound basically. So then what happens is when you chant it, then your mind, because of pure monotony, because there is no sense to it, after a while it gets absorbed in the monotony. And it is a simple repetition. What happens is the energies of the mind, which are usually going in different patterns, slowly get condensed into one motion, one movement. The whole mind. This is if you are really doing japa, not if you are sitting here and doing japa and thinking of the puris. That doesn't work. If you are really concentrated on the japa, then your full japa, your entire mind becomes in one pattern. That pattern, it becomes calm and quiet. When it is calm and quiet, then it is possible for the mind to deal with its problems. That's all. But if the mantra which you are chanting is a bijakshara, bijaksharas also don't have meaning, but they have sound potency. They have certain energy in the sound. If such mantras are chanted, knowing also which center you should give attention when you chant, then that part of consciousness of that center is awakened. And when that is awakened, then one gets access to higher dimensions. That is the meaning of bijakshara chanting. Now devotional chanting is, if you have an Ishta Devata, you consider God to be Rama. You have all the affection involved in having a connection with that deity. Then you chant Rama, 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 Rama. Then your whole mind is turned towards in one direction. There is no other space for the mind to engage in any other activity or think of anything else. So it becomes one pointed. Now that happens when you chant the name of a deity. Also, the very word Rama here, as an example, has two bijaksharas. One is Ra, which is part of Rang, and Ma, which is also a bijakshara. So Ra and Ma. Ma is the last sound of Om, Im. Both these have their own built-in vibration. So even if you are not thinking of Ayodhya Rama, you can still chant Rama Rama. When Kabir Das talked about Rama, he never was talking about Ayodhya Ram. He was talking of Shuddha Brahma Paratpara Ram. So,
Ramadas also says Ram, Ram,
yeah,
it's not Ayodhya.
it is not Ram. It is some all-pervading Ram. It's not necessarily confined to this Ram. There is no harm in thinking of this Ram, but I'm just saying. So, the sound also has a certain effect.
Suppose it said silently, sir. Then how would the potency of it?
Yeah, now if the silent mantra is supposed to have the maximum potency, but most of the time when we silently chant, our mind wanders. So it is good to chant audibly, not to others, but at least to ourselves, till the mind becomes steady. After the mind becomes steady, then you can chant silently. Otherwise, what happens is, suppose you are saying, say, Ram, 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 or Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. When you hear the sound, you can listen to it, no? And fix your attention there. Suppose you are chanting quietly, then what will happen is, if you hear a Nachiket talking there, that will come into your ears. And so your mind will slowly shift that side. When you are saying Ram, 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 even if he is like, you can't even hear it. You are listening to something. So for the most human beings who are accustomed to using their sense organs, it is good to have a visible and audible way of engaging the mind. The abstract way of engaging the mind in nothingness is great, but it is not easy to acquire. So the way is through this, and then you enter that and stay calm. It's no harm. So ultimately what does it boil down to? That the agitations of the mind have to be calmed, whatever be the methods that we adopt. It has to settle down and remain in quietude. If it remains quiet, then there is a possibility of going to the higher levels, as we discussed in the morning, from the conscious to the subconscious to the superconscious, and from the superconscious linked to the cosmic conscious. It has to be done step by step. It has to actually step in.